Pirate Radio Nut Hut Studios, it's time for the very first ever Southern...
Ghosts are fighting. Standing by, over. Ghosts are fighting. Standing by, over.
Right now, it's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines...
Clock's run out. Time's up.
Wind is blowing cold and dark. On the road and no way out. A broken house, a smoking gun. On the run. On the run.
Welcome, Clyde Lewis listeners. We got a great show planned for you. Stick around.
I am Gunnery Sergeant Hartman, your senior drill instructor. From now on, you will speak only when spoken to. And the first and last words out of your filthy sewers will be, sir. Do you maggots understand that?
Sir, yes, sir.
Bullshit, I can't hear you. Sound off like you got a pair.
Sir, yes, sir.
If you ladies leave my island, if you survive recruit training, you will be a weapon. You will be a minister of death praying for war. But until that day, you are pukes. You are the lowest form of life on earth. You are not even human fucking beings. You are nothing but unorganized, grabastic pieces of amphibian shit. Scumbag.
Sir, Private Brown, sir.
Bullshit. From now on, you're Private Snowball. Do you like that name?
Sir, yes, sir.
Well, there's one thing that you won't like, Private Snowball. They don't serve fried chicken and watermelon on a daily basis in my mess hall.
Sir, yes, sir.
That you, John Wayne? Is this me?
Who said that? Who the fuck said that? Who's the slimy little common shit twinkle-toed cocksucker down here who just signed his own death warrant? Nobody, huh? The very fucking godmother said it. I'm fucking standing. I will PT you all until you fucking die. I'll PT you until your assholes are sucking buttermilk. Was it you, you scroungy little fuck, huh?
Sir, no, sir.
You little piece of shit, you look like a fucking worm. I bet it was you.
Sir, no, sir.
Sir, I said it, sir.
Well, no shit. What have we got here? A fucking comedian, private joker. I admire your honesty. Hell, I like you. You can come over to my house and fuck my sister. You little scumbag. I got your name. I got your ass. You will not laugh. You will not cry. You will learn by the numbers. I will teach you. Now get up. Get on your feet. You had best unfuck yourself or I will unscrew your head and shit down your neck.
Sir, yes, sir.
Private Joker, why did you join my beloved corps?
Sir, to kill, sir.
So you're a killer?
Sir, yes, sir.
Let me see your war face.
Sir.
You got a war face? Ah! That's a war face. Now let me see your war face.
Ah!
Bullshit. You didn't convince me. Let me see your real war face.
Ah!
You don't scare me. Work on it.
Sir, yes, sir.
My name's Jimmy, and Into the Microcosm is on the air.
All right, you sinners, swing. Danger in the rearview mirror, there's trouble in the wind. Madness bringing up the rear, the menace is loose again. She looks so fucking good, so sexy and so fresh. Something got the bite on me, I'm going straight to hell. And now we're wasting time. Now we're wasting time. Same old make-up line.
Journeyman. Are you there?
I am here.
Excelente. Well, welcome back. It's been a long 24 hours, and you're here again. It looks like you've waxed your longboard, and you're ready for some big wave, lazy surfing. But how you doing, bro? You look good. You looking fine. What's happening?
Doing good.
So you got a call from your old landlord, huh? You needed a plumber.
Yeah, I did, man. I had to go do some work at the old place because you would do a favor for a friend kind of thing. And, Oh my God, man! Next thing I know, I'm like, it's gonna be like one of those Charlie Chaplin movies, where everything breaks and the whole world's falling apart around them, and I'm doing cartwheels trying to keep the building from falling down on me. Man, it was scary. But I got out of it. I escaped intact. And I have to say, I was listening to that boot camp rendition there, and it made me think of a weirdest thing ever, man. It made me think of the feminine version of that. You know what it is? It's from Gilligan's Island. He taught me how to walk and to talk and to dress like a regular lady. Yeah, it's a dream sequence.
Oh, that's weird. Yeah, I remember that. Good eye, dude.
It is, man. It is, absolutely.
That is a good eye. Hey, we got some great people ready to roll here on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, we got an idea tonight, and we're going to work it out right here live for the second time, and then we're really trying to get this dialed in because we really want to make this happen. And we're going to try our second tabletop exercise tonight, and we've got a panel of experts in the ideas that are behind some of these situations. We've got a whole round table here. It's the Neon Knights of the round table here tonight, and one warrior princess. That's right. Well, here, rather than waste any more time, let's get this show going. Hang on a second here.
Because he missed the scenery, the native dancers, and the charming songs. But wait a minute, something's wrong. Do the mambo like a crazy and hey mambo, don't want a tarantella, hey mambo, no more a mozzarella, hey mambo Italiano, try an enchilada with a fish, a bacalao, and hey compa, I love how you
Giuseppe Valvangulo, David Scorpio. Oh, you there?
I'm here.
Excelente. Well, you brought your partner in crime with you today, and it's super stoked. We tried to get him back for a couple of times.
Good to be here, Jimmy. Thanks.
It's good to have you, Dave, man. It's great to have you. And how's things going down? So let everybody know. So Dave Scorpio is down in Ecuador. He's an artist. He's a thinker. He's a philosopher. He's got a couple of shows that he does, and he helps out a couple of really great people producing their shows. And he's a wealth of information as a result of being in the room with so many great people on a daily basis, having such deep discussions about the things that go on, and a welcome addition to Into the Microcosm here on Aftermath.fm. So, Dave, welcome. How's everything down? People might not be familiar with things. How's things going down where you are? What's it looking like down there? Are you free? Are you free range, or are you under some sort of measures down there?
Well, right now things are very mellow here. Of course, the new president, who just happens to be a international banker, is in an all-out push to get the entire country vaccinated. Sound familiar? And of course, most people are willingly wearing masks. There's no mandate, but they do it out of fear.
Well, you know what's interesting is I was listening earlier tonight to Gerald Celente, and he was having a discussion with Jeff Rentz, and he was reciting a couple of statistics that I found disgusting, actually. There's 15 million people in Australia. 950 of them died from COVID. And out of those 950, the average age was people over the age of 85. And I'm just using this as an example. They shut down Melbourne and made it so you couldn't go 25 miles outside the city over this. So it looks like the chickens are coming home to roost here on Fauci, and it looks like it mostly got started off by the Rand Paul questioning that took place.
Oh yeah, Rand Paul got him riled and flustered. You can tell Fauci is a man that's not used to being questioned. He got very agitated very quickly.
Oh yeah. And the thing is, I'm not a big fan of Rand Paul. I don't think Rand Paul is Ron Paul by any stretch of the imagination. But I found it interesting that he happens to be the one that's the one that's going out there and saying something. I think you may be seeing inklings of a Rand Paul vice presidency, whoever ends up being the Republican.
Well, I'll give Rand Paul one bit of credit in that he's the first politician, I believe, anywhere in the United States or the Western world that has said he is not going to take the vaccine. He already had COVID, and his natural immune system is better than the vaccine.
I know, and that's important too, because he is he is a medical professional, or his father, and he's in a family of medical professionals. Is he a doctor? I forget. Is Rand Paul a doctor?
He's an eye doctor.
Yeah, he's an
optometrist, isn't he? Something like the ophthalmologist.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
He's not like a real doctor. I mean, you have to study to become a real doctor.
He's not a real doctor.
They're real doctors, man. If you want to be blinded, everybody goes to an eye doctor and goes blind. They better be real doctors.
My uncle's not going to appreciate that, Epic. He thinks he's a real doctor.
I just had to say. Yeah, right. I'm not rooting for this. Like, I was actually rooting for the landscaper, the guy next door tackled him. Rand Paul pisses me off. I mean, he does, man, because he's such a jerk, But at the same time, Fauci's like the old man, get off my lawn.
He is.
What, are you talking to me?
Rand Paul is neo-conish to me.
He is, right.
But the thing is like, it's all these other things that you do. It's like our modus operandi these days is to, when we find somebody that resonates with our ideas or our way of thinking, that we've now grown accustomed to ignoring the rest of what's going on with them because we want to just hear that. And so, I'll give you an example. Rudy Giuliani, the guy's a rat, but because he was on Trump's side and fighting for Trump, everybody was going, oh, Giuliani, yeah, everybody's interested in what Giuliani's got to say all of a sudden. This kind of thing. And, so the ignoring of one part of a person so that you can accept them because they're the only candidate that you have offered to you is something that's really, puts us in a bad situation, because we are always having to corrupt ourselves and our thinking and our principles, even though we don't believe in a lot of what Rand Paul may believe in, because he's questioning Fauci now. Even I'm doing it. See, I'm doing what I'm talking about right here live on the air. I mean, I'm doing exactly what I'm saying, which is, I told you, I don't like Rand Paul, but I'm legitimizing him by saying he's asking the right questions. So, I'm just trying to give him his props, but I'm not 100% with Rand Paul on his politics at all. And like I say, he's not Ron Paul, in my opinion. But anyhow,
right. That's how I feel. But the thing about it is, like you're talking about Fauci too. Like the thing about him is he is Mr. Establishment, right? I mean, so no matter what happens, he is Mr. Establishment in that sense. He's been around so long. He's like, I was there in the Cubs hit the home run in 1928 or whatever. I mean, he's that guy, So you're not going to, mess with his baseball facts. You're not going to mess with his other facts either. But the fact is that he's behind the times a little bit too.
Well,
and it's a legitimate question to ask. Why aren't you immune if you had it already?
Well,
that is a legitimate question to ask.
Here's the thing: I'll entertain Rand Paul. Okay, I'll entertain him and what he's saying. But I don't subscribe to him necessarily. And there's a big difference between entertaining a subject or kicking it around on a table for discussion and actually believing in it or subscribing to it. So I may not be a supporter. I don't subscribe to the Rand Paul channel, but occasionally I will watch the channel and I will see things that I like or dislike. You see what I mean? Epic Journeyman. So and I don't mind. You know, hey, if we watch the Rand Paul channel, everybody on the panel, Brandy, you're over there too, aren't you? I'm sorry, I didn't see you there. If you were there, are you there?
All right, I'm eating some birthday cake. So
Happy birthday!
Oh man,
my birthday.
that sounds incredibly good.
All right, well, stand by. Let me ask these guys this question. So listen here. I want to get this out there because normally when there's shows on the air, you'll hear a disclaimer. You know, the views expressed by Jimmy Jean and Into the Microcosm no way reflect, you know, the views or politics of Aftermath.fm, Clyde Lewis, or anybody else, right? You hear those. And that's specifically because just because you're doing a show about a subject doesn't mean that that's what you think necessarily. And I think, you know, what do you guys think about this? Because I think this is a big problem across the board with shows in general, is that sometimes people get under the impression because you have a guest on who thinks a certain way and you're letting your guest talk freely on your show about whatever it is, that you agree with it. So is it by silence, is silence, you know, acquiescence or silence
Consent?
agreement?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, we have some great guests today.
Yeah, let's get Scorpio and Giuseppe in here.
Exactly. I think it's totally appropriate to hear what they have to say, because I think that's exactly right. Like, so just because even if we're guests on a show ourselves doesn't mean what we're talking about is something we subscribe to, right? It's just something that we entertain enough to speak about.
We're entertaining the subject matter to keep, you know, to talk about it here with people and open up the phones and see what you think, because this is how when you table questions, you ask these questions, you come at it like you're a person. It doesn't matter. Look, if you're a debater, you don't care what the subject is. Okay, you show up and they go, hey, the subject tonight is you're debating bananas, about bananas tonight. Okay, Jimmy, you're on the good side. You're on the pro-banana side.
I'm on the slippery side, man. They cause injuries.
And you're on the downside on the bananas over there, Epic Journeyman. So the thing is that you show up for the debate, you debate it, but then when you leave, you could care less about bananas. Do you care about them bananas? No. I only cared about it in the minute we were talking about it, because the purpose of us talking about it is to throw it out on the table and cause everyone to have some food for thought, and then take that.
No pun intended.
Right, and just take that and then open yourself up to questioning some of the things that maybe we take for granted. Because in order to table these kind of questions, you got to throw them out on the table. You can't just dismiss it because it's, you know, you think it's shit. You know, there's a lot of things.
Logical.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Dave. Was that Scorpio?
Yeah, Dave. No, that was me.
Oh,
but
yeah,
Dave.
Yeah. Well,
Dave,
you know, Jimmy, you know, taking the time to think about things that are outside your personal belief system or your own perception of the world, a lot of times that's how you grow and discover things that you wouldn't think of otherwise. And I think that's why that kind of exercise is so important.
I think so too. What about you, Giuseppe? Now, subscribing and entertaining, you guys run guests through your show, and you know maybe they're going to talk about something that you don't necessarily believe in, you don't necessarily even subscribe to at all, but you're willing to entertain it for the purpose of discussion, to get information out there that may not be out there and give people an idea about some stuff they may not have heard about. But that doesn't necessarily mean you personally and intrinsically believe that, right? So, I mean, expand on this for a little bit for the listeners, because I really want to drive this point home, you know?
Well, I think, Jimmy, what we face in today's society with the over saturation of the mass media, of the jump cut, where everything has to be quick, everything has to be very superficial, everything has to be black and white and definitive. You know, there's movies no longer have the gray endings. You know, it's got to be the hero wins and the villain dies, and so I think that's intentional, sadly, by the the elites to have essentially, I forget if it was Carnegie or Mellon or someone said, I don't want a nation of thinkers, I want a nation of workers. And there's been an effort to decade by decade to dumb down the public education system, first with Common Core, now with Common Core, which is just absurd. And so what you have now is people who are very, they're very quick in their frontal lobes, but they, from playing video games, from jump cuts, but they're not able to step back and discuss rationally any topic in any form of depth, and also to be dispassionate about it. I mean, the whole idea of having a well-rounded intellectual acumen is to, like you said, if you want to talk about is Donald Trump the greatest thing for this country, or is Orange Man bad, right? Well, we should be able to, dispassionately talk about that. But you saw the videos of those young women with their weird chopped hair and their piercings and all, literally losing their shit when he won. And the other side of the coin is these good old make America great again, and they're like, Donald said I should put my 2 middle fingers up my rectum to make America great, so I will. I mean, it's just so insane that we have this level of vacuous shallowness and this absolutism now.
It is.
Key word, absolutism. Right. No, that's absolutely right.
Go ahead.
There's spaces in between, like this whole war against analog and digital, like analog has all the spaces in between. That's what's really going on, right? We're trying to make everything black and white, ones and zeros. But the fact is there's grades in between. That's what colors are. That's what the spectrum of the rainbow is, not in the homosexual flag sense. To all my friends out there might be enjoying Gay Pride Month or whatever. I'm not saying anything bad about that. I'm just saying that those gradients in between are being lost, right? They're being lost. Like, you have to choose a side. Why do you have to choose a side? There's no reason to choose a side. That's there's no side to choose. Things are what they are. When the sun's out and it hits those leaves a certain way, they're a certain color green, and later in the afternoon they're a different color green, and those are the shades in between. And you lose those things when you start trying to make everything political and make everything a decision and a choice. It's not a decision, choice. It's an observation. It's enjoying what you have.
We've been conditioned not to be allowed to express our own opinions and our own thoughts, and to contrast ideas, and to share how we think about something, or share a different aspect of something. And even censorship has something to do with that, but that's not been going on for years. But what has been going on for years is just not being allowed or being empowered, and for children not being taught how to have a logical discourse. It has to start there.
It does. And it all, I mean, honestly, for me, it really goes to the Socratic method. In other words, we're here to ask questions. We're not here to make statements. Listen, I've read a lot of books. I've done this and that, and the more that I learn about the world and the way and the universe and all these things, science and all these things, the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know anything. Because at any given moment, this piece of information that you're not privy to can come in and blow you away, knock that cornerstone right off your building, and knock the whole thing right on down. Because the thing is like, especially when you're isolated in these filter bubbles and you don't get outside information outside of your own thought patterns, and you only talk to people who are in the choir, you don't get the information all the way through. You get a partial idea of the information and then develop a cognitive anchor based on that, which can never be dislodged. Because once that anchor is set, it doesn't matter. And you can go listen to Yuri Brezmenov talking to G. Edward Griffin, about spies and what the KGB was really about. It wasn't about James Bond and all this. It was about integrating operators into educational systems to start changing the way young people think as they're making their way through college and through the university system. And even so far as to get all the way down to the grade schools and high schools and all that, you know, basically softening the heads of a generation as they move through the educational system to the point when they get at the end of the conveyor belt. They're wearing T-shirts that have Chairman Mao's face on it, and Che Guevara is a hero.
Right. So the idea of being that an anchor holds you in place, right? You can't move if you're subject to an anchor, right? The storm blows, the winds blow, change should take you someplace else, where your masts are up and your sails are up and everything's ready to go, and you can't move because you've got to lift up the anchor, right? Because the anchor's holding you in place. And that's what I meant by when I'm saying something about like the rainbow and how it's been hijacked. And again, I don't mean to imply that it has anything to do with homosexuality or anything like that, because that's what's happening right now. It's been hijacked. The idea of a symbol that means something that is a variety of colors, right, shades in between, is suddenly, you know, if you're a redneck that grew up, and I'm not picking up rednecks either, that grew up in some place where, what are you, gay? You know, because now you can't, it's either left or right. You know, there's no in between. Well, no, that's not what it means. But because that option's been taken off the table, because now the rainbow is a symbol that means that, right? It never meant that before. Now you can't see the shades in between. You can't see the colors in between. It doesn't mean you can't think analog. You're strictly ones and zeros. You either are this or that. Well, that's not true. That's a lie. That's a total lie. And as long as you're anchored to that place in that one particular harbor, you're never going to see anything different. You're never going to escape it, right?
That's right.
It's social engineering at its best.
It is. This is the end result of what happened in the 60s, late 60s, going into the 70s. We saw the closeout meeting. I keep repeating this over and over again, but the closeout meeting was so important when I heard Timothy Leary saying that in the future, DNA would be just as important in the future as controlling the mind was in the 60s. So in other words, the whole apparatus was focused on figuring out how to control the mind during the 60s. The whole decade of the 60s was the rolling out of everything that had been learned up until that point from a psychological basis and put out there over the airwaves through radio, TV, magazines, repetitive psychic driving through lyrics. I want to hold your hand. Yes, I do. And there it was. So, entertaining subjects and subscribing to them, there's two different things. And you can bet one thing, if I ever talk about something on here and it's what I think, you'll hear me say, this is what I think, or this is what I believe, or this is what I suspect. But other than that, I'm entertaining subject matters for discussion here on Aftermath.fm. Tune in, turn on, and find out. It's in the microcosm. David Scorpio, Giuseppe Vaffangulo, Brandy Lou's here, Epic Journeyman's here, I'm here, and get ready for it because we're about to go into a tabletop exercise.
Put the lyrics on the paper with the pen, evenly makes the record spin. Islam drops the beats that you rock to. Thought that I would never get you, got you. Dog on the floor like you know you never done before. How could a brother be so hardcore and still keep you on the floor like a maniac? That's your question? Well, I'ma answer that. I'm on the mic tonight. I'm here to do it right. Ice, the capital T, airtight. Coolest of the cool. I'm back on a mission. Step to me, fool. You're missing, mine is gone, pow. You're out of here. This ain't no game to me. This is my career. Throw me a mic, plug it in. Bam! I won't be happy till the dance floor's wet. I ain't no rookie, I'm a microphone vet. Evil Lee's on the set. Hit the deck. Be easy on the button. Be easy on the button. Be easy on the button. No mistakes allowed.
It's Aftermath FM. It's into the microcosm.
We interrupt this program with a special bulletin. America is now under martial law. All constitutional rights have been suspended. Stay in your home. Do not attempt to contact loved ones, insurance agents, or attorneys. Shut up. Do not attempt to think or depression may occur. Stay in your home. Curfew is at 7 p.m. sharp after work. Anyone caught outside the gates of their subdivision sectors after curfew will be shot. Remain calm. Do not panic. Your neighborhood watch officer will be by to collect urine samples in the morning. Anyone caught interfering with the collection of urine samples will be shot. Stay in your home. Remain calm. The number one enemy of progress is questions. National security is more important than individual will. All sports broadcasts will proceed as normal. No more than 2 people may gather anywhere without permission. Use only the drugs prescribed by your boss or supervisor. Shut up! Be happy. Obey all orders without question. The comfort you've demanded is now mandatory. Be happy. At last, everything is done for you.
Welcome to Tabletop XXX. My name is Jimmy. It's in the microcosm Giuseppe Vaffangulo. Are you there? Stand by. Are you there? Giuseppe Vaffangulo. Are you there?
Mamma mia, he's a go.
Oh, I'm here. Sorry, I was muted.
Oh, jeez, this is a go. I can't believe I. Giuseppe Vaffangulo. All right, so what's going on, man? Let's get into this tabletop exercise. Now, you and I were having a discussion a couple weeks ago, and I was telling you about an article that I had read back in the day that I still remembered, and it was an article that was written by somebody that everyone's heard of, G. Gordon Liddy, attorney. Now, you know, since then, of course, he's had a radio show and da-da-da-da-da-da. So everybody's heard of G. Gordon Liddy. So, but I could never find this article. A million times I thought of it, and I was like, man, I should bring that back to, you know, dust that off and bring that thing back, and I could never find it. So you and I were discussing it, and I mean, you're a researcher extraordinaire. You dig where no man has dug before, and you're able to pull out some of these documents that people can't find. And so I brought it up with you, and then that, you know, got you on to the scent, because we were talking about the trial and the Iran-Contra hearings and Colonel what's his nuts?
Ollie North.
Yeah, Colonel Oliver North. And that's how we determined, sort of, in that conversation, you asked questions like we were just talking about a minute ago. And I was like, wait a minute. And then it came into focus, like the sort of time period with Oliver North and the Iran-Contra hearings and why they were talking about terrorism. And G. Gordon Liddy wrote this article. So let me toss it over to you, bro, and let's get started. And Dave Scorpio, do not sit silent over there. Make sure I know you're a polite dude, but make sure you assert yourself in this tabletop exercise because your opinion is important. So let's get into this, Giuseppe Vaffangulo. Tell everybody what you found and how you came about and what's going on with this article in particular.
Well, that article was very hard to find. It's pretty much non-existent on the traditional internet, and I used some non-traditional search engines, and I found just only 2 or 3 articles that referenced it, but nobody had a link to it. Finally, the good old Google Wayback Machine, I finally found it in that. I was going through multiple issues, the table of contents of Omni magazine, which was so popular back in the day. I mean, I had a subscription for several years. It was a cool mag.
Yeah.
And so anyway, in January of 1989, G. Gordon Liddy wrote a fictional but very structurally and content accurate memo. This is the kind of things I'm sure he wrote for Nixon when he was on the executive staff of the president. And it essentially, it said to, the president, from, G. Gordon Liddy, subject, near future potential for massive terrorism on United States soil. And the fictional memo characterizes critical infrastructure concerns and analysis from postulated events that continues to remain in many ways our vulnerability and is applicable and challenging to this very day.
And it is, and it's intense. And let me just draw a parallel now. There was another time period, and there was when RFK was assassinated, and they had hypnotized Sirhan in that conversation. They were trying to get him to say the reason he the reason he did it was because of the Palestinian situation. So you could see that there's been a drumming of this beat drumming up until 9/11, where this same thing with the Oklahoma City bombing. In other words, they were preparing us for this enemy for a long time, and then each time the crime against humanity got more and more heinous. In other words, at first it was just this. It was first the thwarted attack on the Twin Towers, all this stuff. But they were grooming us, or just like I was saying earlier, with the softening of the heads of a generation by these subversive teachers that have migrated themselves into the educational system. Same thing. Our heads have been softened by all these little terrorist events, and up until 9/11, all they were minor crimes. It wasn't just considered just a minor disturbance to the giant beast known as America. It was just a crime. But when 9/11 happened, what happened was the enemy became a whole group of people, Muslims in particular. And the thing is now you didn't know who. In other words, the same thing happened to the Japanese when we got bombed in Pearl Harbor. In other words, you didn't know who the enemy was all of a sudden. Your next door neighbor, the Japanese guy, he might be a, suicide bomber or whatever, a kamikaze.
Right.
And the same thing happened with the Muslims as a result of this stuff. But they've been, like I said, they've been beating this drum for a long time, wanting to get this enemy going so we could get those wars going over in the other countries and start, getting some of those resources that we've been needing or whatever, like this. I don't know what the whole purpose of it. It's been going on for a long time, but now we're here. And G. Gordon Liddy is now preparing a letter for the president, telling him 5 things that are going to happen that can pinch the United States off, and it doesn't take a whole army to do it. It doesn't take an invasion, Giuseppe. Go ahead.
Right. It's amazing that he could winnow down to just 5 key attack points, and that would essentially disable this country. The first point is the United States commercial aircraft industry is taken down and made 90% inoperative. And, one thing you have to give credit for in the last since 9/11 is that the air terminal facility security upgrades have been improved, but they still are. There's been tests where everybody's getting their junk fondled by the TSA, but nobody's checking the bags much of anything that's coming direct from business to business shipping and all that. So it could easily be done the way he's mentioning it.
Yeah.
Well, they're checking the bags all right. No.
Yeah, no, they're checking the tea bag. Go ahead, Scorpio, come in on this now. So So here's one of the 5 points: is the air traffic control of the in the airspace over the United States. So we're moving goods, people, materials, documents, all these things. So this is a key thing. One of some of the key things that you think can happen as a result of, because that's what happens in these tabletop exercises, ladies and gentlemen, is we got to game out what are the ramifications of some of these items that happen. So let me ask you this, Giuseppe. Do you want to go through these one at a time, each part of this article, and then just game that out, or do you want to just go through and bullet point all 5 of these, and then we can just jump in on and talk about each one? How do you want to roll this out? You want to
I think it'd be a good idea to lay out all 5, and then we can drill down once the 5 weaknesses that Liddy identified as the key choke points to make this United States incapacitated were. So the first one was you take down the aircraft industry, make it 90% inoperative. The second point is the nation's capital and 7 largest metropolitan areas are blacked out indefinitely. So potential electric grid physical attacks on high voltage transformers across a wide area would be quite debilitating and truly difficult to recover from, even with the progress on spare transformer programs. And before the show, Epic was laying out just how easy, and Scorpio as well, easy would be to take them out and how difficult it is to replace them these days. So the second point is you take down the grid, essentially. The third point is you blow up bridges and north-south rail traffic in eastern United States severed. Much of strategic rail corridor network is out. So, people don't realize that when these shipping containers come into the country, most of them end up on rail cars. That's how they're moved. It's not cost effective to put them on flatbeds. So you would really be, and so much of today's food supply is just in time.
Yeah, no, I'm just making a list. I'm writing these down as you're going, because we're gonna break this. We're gonna do this just like a tabletop. So I think this is good. So yeah, keep going. Break up.
Okay.
Keep going on.
Point 4 is the natural gas supply for industrial, utility, commercial, and residential use in northeastern and Atlantic coastal cut by 75%. So all you got to do is hack the pipelines. Geez, who'd have thunk that could ever happen? And it would take at least a year to restore it. And I would guess that they wouldn't just hack it. I would bet one would get blown up.
Well, yeah, and when he wrote this article, hacking wasn't really that big of a thing. So
right, exactly.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And the final point is the computer database erasure of Wall Street, the 6 Federal Reserve banks, 2 IRS service centers, and several of the largest commercial banks, and numerous corporations produce fiscal chaos. If you introduce some type of malware into all that, that's just essentially made it ransomware, or even worse, just made the data unusable, and then you understood where the backups were. Those 5 points. So I mean, how ridiculously simple would it be? I mean, it's frighteningly simple if you just look at those 5 points.
Yeah, it is, and I didn't hear anything in there about telecommunication networks. Does he drill into any detail more in the article that you found, or any of the research around it, where he's talking about telecommunications shutdown?
Well, I think he looks at the he did not really go into any great detail. I mean, again, this is about a 4 or 5 page.
Okay, this is good, because this is our tabletop exercise. So you just laid out the 5 problems. Okay, and I just found one thing that's not in there that we can use now. So we still have our internet now. Okay, so far right now we still have internet, and we still have phones. We still have communication. We still have cell phone. But the power is now out in the 5 biggest metropolitan cities in America. And those 5 cities now are going to become like ant piles Like somebody kicked over an ant pile, and it's going to be chaos. And so a lot of the resources are going to be tied up around that. Not only that, but there's going to be other outside of the cities. There's also going to be residual cascade effects of these power outages that will also knock out other people's power. Now, if it's in the summer when it happens, we may dodge a bullet. But if it's in the winter and they cut off the natural gas, well, lots of old people are going to freeze to death in their houses. There's going to be some issues that are going to have to be addressed. That is going to also suck up resources. So one of the things I'm seeing right off the bat, okay, so I know right off the bat there's going to be limited resources, right? Limited resources. So that means that you're on your own, ladies and gentlemen, at this point. So that means no one's coming to help you. When you dial 911, no one's coming. So if you don't have a good first aid kit, first aid plan, and you don't have a plan for yourself at this point, in the next 24 hours of this, because typically it's said psychologically from a crowd perspective that when the power goes out and people don't know what's going on, it's usually takes 3 days before people start thinking about getting smart and going out and getting stuff, stealing and, doing stuff and starting to go out and...
Well, I can tell you, Jimmy, from being here in Texas during this blizzard that we had this past winter, people were not prepared. They didn't know what to do. And the thing that it highlighted to me is, granted, who would have expected to have a blizzard, in Texas? But it points out the fact that we should always be ready and have at least some backups on some things, because we never know what kind of emergency we're going to have. So that was a really good lesson for us to pay attention to.
And I remember seeing all these Texans, and when I say Texans, I want to say Americans. So just imagine that every single person I saw standing at the park with gallon jugs in their hands trying to get some water. Because the Americans standing trying to get some water, just like a third world country. Standing there all filthy, dirty, all messed up because their power's out. They lost their food in their refrigerator.
Well, and you know what they said? The government should help us. They're supposed to take care of us.
Exactly.
But they privatized all their stuff. Right. I mean, you expect Sally Struthers to come out there, please give. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
But the thing about this is that if you're unfortunate enough and you're on mainland America to be caught without food and water stocked up, the most important thing is a tank of gas. You get the F out of there, like within 30 minutes, seriously, of the shit hitting the fan. I mean, once it's out and it's obvious it's going to be out for a while, you get the F out of there, man. That's the most important and most reasonable thing you can do. You get out of there. Get that. Especially if you're in a big city, get out of there, right? And then recoup later. But if you can't do that, you better hope you have some stuff stored up, because you're gonna have to fend for yourself for maybe weeks or months. I mean, if the power's down and there's no transformers coming, and there's no water, you're in some dire straits, man.
All right, so we're gonna have to brainstorm and come up with some ways that we can figure out solutions to some of these problems. But before we do that, Dave, Scorpio, get in the mosh pit over here and jump around, because what do you see now? You've heard the 5 areas, and I think what we should do is now we're going to go into each one of these areas precisely into this article to let people have an idea of exactly how detailed this article was, and we'll go into each one of these now in detail, Giuseppe. So Dave, what do you think now? We got the air shut down, the grid and the 5 metros is shut down. We got natural gas, 75% of it's gone. All the records of the Federal Reserve and Wall Street have been wiped clean. So those guys skated, man. They got whatever they traded into gold and Bitcoin, they just skated on it. So what do you think? Go ahead.
Well, Jimmy, the first thing that struck my mind about that article is that this is a scenario for a real terrorist attack, not the phony one that we were subjected to during 9/11, where they had these so-called terrorists that were attacking the symbol of our democracy, a building that had to be torn down anyway in all likelihood, and creating a situation where they could manage the entire scenario quite easily. The scenario that Liddy lays out here would be one that would be completely out of control. And of course, one thing that comes to my mind immediately is when the power goes out, some nuclear power plants are going to start melting down. I know they can get generators in there and stop some of them, but it doesn't take much for that kind of thing to spiral out of control. And once you start having nuclear power meltdowns, that's a whole new dimension added to this scenario.
Right, and you got a clock ticking. I'm glad you brought that up, because listen, that's another thing we got to put on our hot list, because what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to get trucks loaded with diesel, and we're going to have to figure out where these because there's generators that are out there, but those generators will run out of fuel at some point because the power's out. And if any of these nuclear power plants are anywhere near a major metropolitan area, those are the ones we're going to want to concentrate on first. If we're going to have one overheat or meltdown, we want to do it someplace further away from the metropolitan areas so it'll kill less people. So I think what we should do is throw it over there to you, Epic Journeyman, because Giuseppe, let's get into that U.S. commercial aircraft industry 90% shutdown, because it's a detailed plan. And the other thing about what you were saying, Dave, is that this here is a small group of people. These are just people that flew here on vacation with a fake wife and some fake kids and show up at a hotel, and then they just disappear. And they go take care of whatever they're going to do. And let me just say the other thing. I'm being totally honest with you guys about this. I'm a little bit nervous about even talking about this on the air, because now, I mean, in looking at this is actually a detailed plan that may or may not be played out at some point, where this is actually the script that we're actually revealing that everybody forgot about from 1989. And I'm hoping that you're not going to get a knock on your door over there, Giuseppe, because you are right next to the District of Criminals. So
I am.
Let's.
You know what's weird about this is that magazine shut down right after that. Like so it started in 78, I want to say, or somewhere around there, 77, 78, I want to say. And it was Bob Guccione's daughter who was the editor. It was a Bob Guccione Penthouse magazine production. Right, it was Omni magazine, but it was a great magazine. It really was. It
was.
They had some famous reveals and experiments and all that stuff. But one of them turned out not to be true. The thermodynamics of pizza was totally bogus, but they reprinted it. It got a lot of traction too. But by the time they were really marching along, and they were kind of a transhumanist bent they had going there for a while, right before they shut down. But the thing is that when they did that tabletop exercise we're talking about right now, that was one of the last things before it shut down. Didn't it shut down like in 90 or 91? It was pretty soon after that. And I'm not saying that's why they did it. I just think it's interesting.
What you're bringing up right now is making me think of a movie and a script called 3 Days of the Condor, starring Robert Redford. And what he worked for the company, man. He worked for the CIA. And but he worked in a department that read books and magazines, because people that worked for the company were in other regions of the world, and the way that they would get information back to the CIA they would write articles and they would write books. And then these guys that worked at this particular place where Robert Redford was working,
the key words.
Yeah, they would read those and see, and they would get those messages. And so the movie is, and it's a great movie too. Let me just say, I'll recommend it tonight. 3 Days of Condor, starring Robert Redford. You guys watch that, rent it. It's a great movie. You'll love it. And they can't remake it. It'll be fake. That one's a good movie. But anyways, the point is, Robert Redford goes across the street to get everybody some sandwiches. And while he's gone, some operators come in and they take care of business, and they kill everybody in the office because somebody in there read something that came through on one of those articles that they didn't want getting out. So they went in and they wiped everybody out. So Robert Redford comes back, and in the middle of all this going on, and then he's on the run. But he's the thing is, like I say, he works for the company, but he's not like a he's not like a killer or a spy. Like he doesn't have a gun or anything. And the whole thing is about him and them chasing him. The whole thing, and it has to do with what we're talking about right now with Omni Magazine, because maybe Omni Magazine was one of those magazines that was there specifically just to put out stuff that went back, and when it was published, they were actually saying something back to the company. Giuseppe Vaffangulo, David Scorpio, Epic Journeyman, Brandy Lou, and myself, Tabletop Exercise, the U.S. commercial aircraft industry. Giuseppe, let's get into that in detail.
Right on. It's interesting. One thing that popped into my head right away, Jimmy, is if he had written this article 10 years later, he of course would have included cell phones and the internet. But back when he wrote it, it was still basically an experiment with DARPA and the academic elites. As far as the interwebs go. So yeah, that's
well, just think of the cell phone and the internet being a tool of these very small crews that we're talking about that don't require any kind of force. Go ahead, let's get into this bad boy, and anybody else have anything else they want to bring to the table. So far we have the power is out, we've got a nuclear threat. We have to find ways to move gasoline and diesel around. We've got to mobilize trucks. All of our emergency operators are tied up. We have to get our trucking network together. We have to get some logistics together. We need somebody to jump in here and help us. So that means we're going to have to find somebody like a Amazon or a Walmart,
which didn't exist back then, right? So think about this. Like back then, all those people trying to get the trucks to get to the location to do what they need to do to get the supplies in are going to be impaired by the fact there's all these people running out of gas on the highway and blocking the highway. And that was the brilliance of that plan, was that it counted on that. Like the panic of the people trying to get out and get their goods and maybe even get out of town or do whatever, didn't have enough gas to get there. Gas is all shut down. There's no electricity, right?
That's right.
And so once you get so far out of town, your gas runs out, and what ends up happening is you block the highway, which is intentional manifestation of what was meant the entire time. So now the trucks can't get there to deliver the fuel.
Okay, so now we got a problem. So see, you just brought this up in the Tabletop Exercise live here in the microcosm on Aftermath.fm. You just brought up another problem. So now there's gridlock, cars running out of gas because there's no gas stations anywhere because the power's out, and all the major outways of these metropolitan areas are now blocked. So you can't get out of the city. You're totally trapped in the city, and guess what? Now we can't get fuel up to that nuclear power plant in New York, so New York's about to get wasted by some meltdown that's going to go on. Meanwhile,
we also don't have the protection of the police at this point because that's going to get shut down.
There is no police protection at this point. They're protecting the corporation at this point. At this point, most of them have probably gone home to go with their families because once something like this happens, the cascading effect of all the things that happen underneath it, and that's the thing that people, you look at it and you go, oh yeah, the power goes out, how horrible. But when you really think about what that means when the power goes out, that means you can't get your prescriptions. That means your refrigerator goes dead. That means your drugs in your refrigerator have to stay cold. They're not cold anymore. That means you can't get ice. I mean, all this stuff. Water's not coming out. You can't flush the toilet. You live in a high rise. 2 weeks later, everybody's toilets are overflowing because you can't flush it, and people got nowhere to go to the bathroom. And so they keep using their toilets until they can't use them anymore, and then it starts stinking, and then it starts getting hot because there's no air conditioning, and then the whole place is fucking reeking. I'm just saying, man, these are the.
It's full of bacteria that's going to eventually kill them. Yeah.
Well, that's one of the problems when something like this happens is people will die from that very quickly.
That's what I mean. So here's G. Gordon Liddy, David Scorpio, jump in here, and then Giuseppe get into the aircraft thing because we're already like an hour into the show. We don't even have much time left. Go ahead.
Well, I think one thing that would happen very quickly in this scenario is you'd have a martial law situation happen almost immediately, and the military would take over all the resources of Amazon, and all these companies would be under the directorship of the military very, very quickly.
And Obama passed an executive order when he was in office that says that very thing. that they can at any time take control over all resources. But the thing is, at this point, what is there to control or take control over? And what there's no, at this point, I don't think there will be a fighting force out there strong-arming citizens who've got a mind to get out there and try to take care of themselves. Like I say, I think at this point, after the 72-hour point where the psyche of the population changes and shifts, and they're sitting around talking to their next door neighbors, going, shit, man, I'll just go down to Best Buy. Man, give me one of them, giant TVs, man. And the other guy goes,
well, and the only other thing I'd add, Jimmy, is, if the power did go out and some of these major transformers were lost in any sizable amount, you're looking at minimum of a year to get the power back on, and that would change people forever. You'd have millions of people dying as a result of that, and just dying from simply from exposure and cold weather.
And they're freezing to death because they got no gas. Okay, now let's say it happens in the summer. So all summer, you're sitting there, no air conditioning, and then all winter, no gas. And by this time, people are worn down to a nub, man. If it goes that long, if nothing happens, you're in trouble. So what's going to happen is there's going to be, we don't even know if you can make it 6 to 9 months at this point, because we got an Epic Journeyman. You're an expert in nuclear stuff just because you've worked around. I wouldn't say expert. I'll just say, because I don't know.
Knowledgeable about it, right? I wouldn't say I'm an expert either.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. What exactly would transpire before we get into the commercial aircraft industry 90% shutdown with Giuseppe? How much of a time frame do we have now in New York City before this meltdown occurs, and then what is going to happen as a result of that?
Well, it's funny actually. It not necessarily in a ha-ha sense, just it's kind of funny. Like the most important thing is water pumps. Okay, so because what happens is that core needs to stay cool. And the only reason radiation doesn't leak out and contaminate the atmosphere and everybody else around it and kill everybody is because water, regular H2O, absorbs neutron radiation. So as long as there's this little, film basically around the reactor cooling it and absorbing neutrons, everything's fine, right? But if the water pumps go out, then there's no way to pump the new water in. And that's what happened to Fukushima, okay? So that's what's going to happen. So if the water pumps go out, you're screwed. So if the reactor, it should be doing the power and have its steam turbine generators running to power the pumps, right? But what happens is if you have a runaway reaction or whatever, you have an accident, they're going to shut everything down. They call it ground the reactor. You're right. And so what happens is when that happens, then they're going to try to reboot it. But if you can't reboot it, then you're dependent on these diesel generators to power the water pumps to keep the coolant coming into the reactor. And if that doesn't happen, well, guess what? Right?
Right.
That's how it can happen.
Right? So like the blast that we saw over in Fukushima, there was like a proton blast that was clearly visible. They denied it at the time, but you could clearly just see the blast. So how long would it take for that proton blast and then the subsequent radiation spike all over New York City? And let's just say, what if it was raining, for example, and then you had this go off at this particular time? Would it rain down radiation? And how long?
Rain would be good, actually. Rain would be good because rain's going to shield you more.
How long does it take?
So rain's better.
How long does it take? How long do I got in New York City? I got to get these people. I got to figure this out for these people in New York. How long do I got before the generator goes out? How long do I got?
Well, okay. There's no water pump, and the reactor goes down, starts melting, and you have a total meltdown of the reactor. Well, what's going to happen, depending where you are, if you're downwind or not, you're going to have alpha and beta radiation right away, right? It's not going to give you the gamma bursts and all X-rays and all that stuff of a regular blast. What's going to happen is, if you breathe in the alpha particles or you eat something, it's going to irradiate you and start breaking you down at a subatomic level, and that's a problem. that's a real problem.
Okay,
right?
so
that's nuclear poisoning.
Right, so people would be getting sick, but they wouldn't know it. They'd just be walking around.
Well, they wouldn't know. They wouldn't know for a while.
Yeah, they're just
exactly.
breathing, and then all of a sudden.
That's a really bad dose.
Yeah, then
really
all of a you just start puking blood or whatever. You go, or whatever. It's so. How long is it going to take? How long do I have?
From a bad dose. A bad
No, I'm
dose, like
saying
you're right
from-
there.
I'm saying from-
some things are immediately fatal, but I'd say like a normal situation you're talking about, probably like 3 weeks.
Okay, so
probably
we
about
got
3 weeks.
okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, in this tabletop exercise, in just one of the 5 things that G. Gordon Liddy, and this is the second one. In just one of these, we've got 3 weeks to figure out how to solve this problem. Now we've got gridlock going out of the city, no way to get. So what are we gonna do? Well, right now I've already made calls to all the helicopter companies, the tourist companies, everybody in New York City that has helicopters. I've already made calls, and I'm getting ready to dispatch helicopters with diesel fuel to the nuclear facility. I'm gonna pick up semis, and I'm gonna grab diesel tanks. I'm gonna take them up there. I'm gonna drop diesel tanks up there to the thing to keep that going. Epic. But in the case I can't do that, in case some way these I haven't got a call back yet from the helicopter companies. So in the case I can't do that, worst case scenario, we got 3 weeks, and then we got about 3 weeks after that, people are dropping dead. So total, we got about 6 weeks until it turns real sour.
Well, and those people who were exposed in that 3 weeks, they're probably still going to die, right? So basically, it depends on the exposure level, of course. I mean, it's all about milligrams and the addition of how many particles you are absorbing during that time frame. But there's a certain dose you're not going to recover from.
Right.
Right.
Oh, so
yeah.
So in this tabletop exercise, ladies and gentlemen, instead of us focusing on these 5 metropolitan areas, I'm using New York City as one example, as a microcosm example of what is going to happen to all 5 of these metropolitan areas. So now in all 5 of these metropolitan areas, we got gridlock going out of the city. We can't move fuel. We can't move food. We can't move ambulances. We can't go to the hospitals. We can't do any of this. And all 5 of these got a nuclear power plant somewhere in the vicinity that's doing the same exact thing. So this is the second power out scenario that he has put forward. So we'll get into the detail of how he said that's going to happen too in a minute. But Giuseppe Vaffangulo, by this time, I'm sure you've memorized the U.S. commercial aircraft industry's 90% inoperative aspect. But let's get into it more in detail. Are you ready, sir? Are you there?
I'm here.
Jawohl.
Yeah, it's just trippy. If you think about it, with the whole COVID pandemic and global exercise, the U.S. air industry was basically shut down. I mean, and that's really interesting that because we still did have the trains running and the trucks running, we could supply the nation with a certain level of basic necessities. What would be so devastating to New York is it's such a small geographic area with such dense population. I mean, their food would be gone in a matter of days, and then what will people start doing? So that would really be horrific.
It would be. You want to get into that exact detailed description of how he said this was going to happen?
Sure.
Because my eyes ain't what they used to be, and I got the wrong glasses on to read that. So if you wouldn't mind, I'd appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. So the article reads, the rendering of U.S. jet equipment inventory unusable cannot be attributed to the events of 2nd August. So he's writing a memo to the president, I'll read above that. This memorandum is a summary of and attached to the comprehensive damage report, physical and political, on the coordinated terrorist savage attack on the night of 2nd August, 1989. The political section has, as ordered, been expanded to include a report on the Capitol Hill riot last Thursday, which cost 13 lives, including those of the Speaker of the House and a congressman, before order was finally restored.
Wow.
Next heading. Yeah, can you imagine?
Is that kind of weird?
Saw,
Is that kind of weird that he's writing about this then? Was there ever a Capitol riot, or is this a hypothetical for the sake of this article? Because
this is all hypothetical.
Okay, well,
it's
that's pretty. I got to say that really matches up with January 6th, doesn't it? Go ahead.
Yeah, it certainly does.
Go ahead.
And so he goes, the rendering of U.S. jet equipment inventory unusable cannot be attributed to the events of 2nd August. The intelligence community, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation are, however, unanimously in agreement that the two are part of the same overall operation. This conclusion is based primarily upon the evidence taken from the body of a female slain by SEAL Team 3 on 2nd August in the San Diego area while she was participating in the attack on the National Electrical Power Distribution System, which is the next heading. But for this fortuitous event, the sudden failure of several aircraft belonging to each U.S. carrier would still be blamed on age, a la the 1988 Aloha aircraft incident where metal fatigue caused the roof of Boeing 737 to rupture in flight. That was a real event. I remember that. As it is, we have had to ground the U.S. civil commercial aviation fleet for an indefinite time, but at least we know what to look for. Japanese intelligence has confirmed that the body of the woman slain by the SEALs is that of a member of their Red Army group. On her person was an item at first thought unrelated to the mission, what appeared to be a U.S.-made magic marker, which, although not dried out, did not mark. The fluid it contained has now been identified by researchers at DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, as a nearly chemical identical to our classified liquid metal embrittlement agent. So the U.S. can make metal brittle back then, of course. Unfortunately, prior to being added to the classified technologies list, the liquid metal embrittlement agent was discussed in open literature. So the way the terrorists did it is they just you had magic markers filled with this chemical compound, and they just literally smeared it on some part of these airlines, and you didn't know where it was, you couldn't see it, so you grounded the whole fleet because you didn't know which one would break down. Yeah.
Wow, man. And that would happen. Just think, I mean, it doesn't have to be that. It could be something like that, though. It could be some threat, and there's some unknown way that this weapon of mass destruction is going to be detonated, and you don't know which plane it's on, so you got to ground them all. So just think about how easy it'd be. In relation to somebody being able to do something from a psychological perspective to cause a reaction that will shut down the airlines. Go ahead, Giuseppe.
Well, that's what he wrote for that point. But
hang on a second. Hang on 1 second. Mike Montalban, and get Scorpio in here. Mike Montalban in the chat says gallium on aluminum. He said gallium is what they're talking about. Possibly what
it'll eat away. Oh, interesting.
Okay, yeah, Scorpio, get in there, man. You were bringing Scorpio.
Well, this is a fascinating article that you guys dug up here, and the airline traffic being shut down too would make food distribution and distribution of commodities extremely difficult, of course, too. So this would, it's just amazing the difference between this scenario and the phony scenario we were given during 9/11. This would be something that I think would be difficult to game out entirely. I don't think even the military would know what to do in this circumstance. And the scary part is this could be done by a very small number of people who were trained properly.
Five people.
Five
people can do this.
That is the key about what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, that is the key. It's 5 people could do this. And the thing about this is, and I think you referenced in the article, maybe correct me, Giuseppe, if I'm wrong, but I read another one, a follow-up to this. And it's basically talking about SEAL team. And the idea is that 5 people could do this. 5 people could pull this off. 5 strategically placed people could totally pull this off. So what you're doing is, 1 takes out the transportation system. one implants the other, the idea of something so scary that you can't fight. You got to slow down and assess the situation. It just immobilizes everyone by the fact that you're thinking about this danger, right? Like the anthrax threat in Congress years ago, right? Same kind of thing. It doesn't matter how you achieve it. It's just the fact you get people to think about it,
Right.
and that it paralyzes everything. But once the critical part of this really is the fuel system being disrupted, because once in the electrical grid, because once those two things happen, they're dependent on each other. You need the electricity to fuel the pumps to put the gas in the car, and you need the trucks on the road to get the gas to the pumps. If those are disrupted, everything shuts down. But if you put fear in the idea, like the thing that's not mentioned in G. Gordon Liddy's article here is the thing they almost did with the Washington snipers, if you recall them. Those two guys hanging out,
Yeah.
in their affair or whatever they were having going on, weird kind of relationship in the car they converted to make it a sniper vehicle. Imagine if there was 20 of those. America shuts down. I mean, 20 people. Think about that. 20 people, like in 20 different cities, doing that. We're screwed, man. Right? And you don't want to even bring that up, but it's just such an obvious thing that it's true. And if you're not bringing it up, you're not trying to defend yourself either, because you can't bury your head in the sand and pretend that it isn't true.
Yeah,
it is true.
And the thing about bringing this up, ladies and gentlemen, is so far this is a bummer. But I mean, we may be able to find some ways to overcome some of these problems, and at least find a microcosmic ways for you to survive if you're listening to this show, if something like this was to happen. But I do want to point out the similarities. So here we've got the aircraft industry shut down, so that happened during the pandemic. We also had a riot at the Capitol, just like described here, that also happened during the pandemic. Okay, so these scenarios, the storyline is different, but the actual result looks very similar to what we're looking at right now. So before we get into the next one, which is the power grid, let's find out specifically how our power grid's going down, because that may help us to figure out how we may be able to solve that problem. But right now, we are up shit creek without a paddle, because we got the 5 metropolitan areas. These are also financial centers. These are also places where lots of brain power exists that would help solve these problems. Now they're all cut off, but we still have communication, though. We keep forgetting that. So we do have communication, and it is 2021, so we have internet. So still we have these helicopters now that are may or may not be available now, but maybe we'll find out, because maybe those helicopters can't fly now because of this same thing. Now everything's grounded, including the helicopters, you guys. So I guess my scenario earlier is blown out of the water. We cannot fly the diesel trucks over to the generators unless we just throw caution to the wind and just go balls to the wall and just go for it and not be afraid that the helicopter's going to fall apart.
Well, Jimmy, wouldn't a typical commercial helicopter not be able to handle that weight? Wouldn't it be those big military helicopters that have the two huge
the Jolly Roger?
Yeah. That would be the ones that would fly the but I guess they could be compromised too.
Yeah, are they compromised, Epic? Now has this
well, it's 1950s, early 60s when they were built, right? So that's the problem.
Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah, it is a problem. I mean, they're old.
Well, I'm saying not only are they old, but I'm saying, are those under the same quarantine as the rest of the airlines and the rest of everything else, or is military exempt from the shutdown?
No, military is exempt from that. Military is exempt from that.
Okay.
You could absolutely deploy them from DoD. You would do what you want to do in that sense. It's different though.
So we could basically fly in one of those fuel jets that's filled with fuel that fuels planes in the air.
Well, I'm going to add another dimension to this. What's going to happen is when, and I truly believe this, if the situation was to evolve the way we're describing it, when the power grid goes down and we don't have all these services, the military, the Pentagon, is going to look at it as an outside attack. Like, who's our enemies, who's attacking us, right? And so all those assets are going to be directed towards the military to defend ourselves. So they're going to look at it from a perspective of an outside attacker, and we're going to have to, to keep our assets together and use them in such a way that we can defend whatever this attack is. And so they're gonna hold 80% of whatever they have in reserve. They're not gonna give it to the civilian sector. They're gonna keep it for themselves to fly their planes and do what they got to do.
But they're not gonna let the nuclear power plants melt down, are they?
No. Well, I'd like to think not. But look what happened to Japan, though. I mean, they weren't able to get there. It was granted it was a tidal wave, it was a tsunami. I mean, literally a tsunami. But the thing is, you would think they would have done it, and they didn't do it either. So
and everybody
they didn't have a plan in place.
And everybody who was there, ended up getting real sick on a lot of those Navy ships out there, the battle groups.
There's another level here that we're forgetting.
Go ahead, Brandy. Go ahead.
The liquid metal embrittlement, which was one of the things that I believe it was the lady who gotten killed.
Right.
She had a marker with her that wasn't used as a marker. It was filled with the liquid metal embrittlement, which you can draw a line with that on the metal of, say, airplane, a helicopter, anything that once it goes up into the air, then it depressurizes. It makes the metal brittle and it can't handle the pressure. So how do we even know that these helicopters or airplanes or whatever, if we can get them up in the air, they may be subject to that? Who knows?
I know. That's the thing, is that's the biggest part of a 5-man team of what they do, is not just what actually gets done, but what the psychological effect is about the thing that gets done. Especially when, I don't know if you guys remember the episode of The Twilight Zone, Dave Scorpio. Do you remember the episode where the lights go out and everybody's on this cul-de-sac, and then this one guy doesn't come out of his house when it all happens, and so everybody in the neighborhood...
The aliens are on Elm Street.
Yeah, everybody starts freaking out about it. They start making up all this shit about this guy just because he doesn't say anything. And that's what happens when these things happen. Power goes out. Yeah, you still got internet. Check this out. You still got internet. We determined that, right, Scorpio? But listen,
yes.
Here's the fucking problem with everybody's shit, okay? Do you still have a hardline phone at your house, ladies and gentlemen? Do you still have a gold phone that rings when you plug it into the wall? It rings all by itself. It has its own number. It's not on the internet. Do you? Anybody on this panel?
No, that's
Does anybody on this panel have that? Well, let me tell you.
I have the port and I have it hooked up.
Okay, well, let me tell you why it's important. Because I'm a telecom dude from way back. So, number one, those old telephone lines, there's voltage on there. So in this event that this happens, there will be voltage on that telephone line, enough for you to charge a phone or different stuff. It's not always a voltage that's happening all the time at a constant rate, but there is voltage. There used to be a ring voltage, so there used to be 15 volts of electricity that would go down your line to make the bells ring on your phone. So that's never gone away. And so, the reason why in the Matrix, they come through a modem, they come through phone lines, is because phones are still going to work when the power goes out. The real phones, the old school Pac Bell or wherever you live phones that were plugged in the wall, power goes out, they still work. Your power goes out, guess what? You got shit, because your voice over IP is running off your router, which plugged into your, no router, bye router, bye internet.
With the transformer, we talk about how the transformers go down because of the power surge in people's. And so those same things, even though you have a surge protector on them, these little cheap Chinese 12-volt transformers, 24-volt transformers are going to blow up too. Yeah.
It's going to blow up in everybody's face. And if you don't have one of these phone lines like I'm talking about, you won't have any communication, because the cell towers are going to do the same thing that the nuclear power plants do. They run off backup power, run off generators, and nobody is going to fill up those generators, man. When that power runs out, and the other thing's going to happen, let me just tell you from a professional telecom perspective, because we've established that we still have telecom, we ain't going to have shit. Because you know what happens when an emergency happens? The power goes out, your router's gone, your internet's gone, your voice over IP's gone. What are people going to do? everybody's going to jump on their cell phone. What's going to happen?
Bob, yeah.
What's going to happen? Overload capacity of all the cell sites simultaneously, and you'll pick it up and you'll say, you cannot make a call at this time. Please try again later. And people are going to be standing there with their phones up in the air trying to get signal.
Now, one thing people often don't know, and it's just a little tip, try, if that happens, you can try calling another state. Sometimes those lines are not as busy, but ideally we want to try to stay off the lines, obviously, but have a number of somebody in another state that you can connect with. They may be able to call back to your family in the state that you're in.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I say, there's not going to be any phone conversations with anybody.
Well, yeah, I think
I'm just saying.
The thing is, like, what happens is that if it's truly evil force, like it's Dr. Evil or it's Dastardly Dan, I'm going to make them all call at the same time, right? And intentionally jam up the phone lines. That's part of the plan. Exactly. So the thing is, I mean, that's part of the plan. So human behavior is incorporated into this. So if it's actually an attack, that's part of the plan. Everybody's be trying to call at the same time. It's going to jam what little bit of bandwidth you had, what little bit of phone connectivity you had is all gone because everybody's trying to do it at the same time. And that is part of the plan. It's incorporated into the plan.
That's right. So, and then I'm telling you, man, the psychological effect of there being no internet, no phone, if you don't have, and I wanted to point this out because I'm trying to throw everybody a bone who's listening to the show, and you don't have a landline. They don't make it easy for landlines anymore. If you want to get one, it's like a hassle, man, because I got one here, and it was a big hassle. But they didn't want to, they put you through all these changes. Why do you want one? All this, and then it costs it's like $60 a month just to have this number there that you never use. So that when times get hard, you look at it and you go, this phone, man, I don't need this thing. But the problem is, like I'm telling you, when everybody else is holding their hand up to try to get signal, if you got a landline, you're sitting back in your apartment and you're calling everybody and you're just going, hey, man, I'm sitting up here in my apartment. I'm on the 9th floor. I'm looking down. People are going nuts in the streets. Everybody else will be wondering what the F's going on. My name's Jimmy. If you're listening to Microcosm, you won't wonder what the F is going on. You're going to find out here because you tuned in, you turned on, and you found out Giuseppe Vaffangulo was up in here with G. Gordon Liddy's article from Omni Magazine in 1989. Dave Scorpio's here. Epic Journeyman's here. I'm here. Brandy Lou's here. And we are all working this out live on the air. Tabletop exercise number 2. Here's All Them Witches. It's after Math FM. It's into the microcosm.
On the night I was born, swear the moon turned fire red. Yeah, the night I was born, swear the moon turned fire red.
It's aftermath.fm.
Heard my mother cry out, Lord, the gypsy was right. And I swear she fell down right there. She said, "Fly on, fly on, oh my fool."
There's only one place to find this show, and that is Aftermath.fm, the home of Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero, Infinite Fringe, Haterazzi, Posing Perspectives, Slow News Day with Steve Pekoinen. So many great shows, so little time. Glad you joined us. And it's the tabletop exercise live. Tabletop number 2. It's in the microcosm.
And I swear you feel no pain. Yeah, I make love to you. Swear to God you feel no pain. I'm a million miles away, but at the same time, I'm right here in your picture frame.
My name is Jimmy. It's Aftermath.fm. We got a blackout Giuseppe Vaffangulo. Are you there? Stand by. Stand by. Stand by. Stone Rebel is a little too loud. I can't really hear you. Go ahead. There you go, Giuseppe.
I'm here.
There you go. Fantastico.
See.
Kommen Sie. Vor uns spanken.
Perfectal Sheikh.
Be here now. I am seeking, yet I am not finding.
Should we go into the second of the 5 categories in the
we
fictional
shall.
report?
And you know what the thing is? It's 12 midnight on the West Coast in California. And there you are, Giuseppe Vaffangulo. It's 3 o'clock, the witching hour where you are.
Yes.
Brandy, I'm not sure what time it is where you are, and I don't know what time it is where you are. Dave Scorpio in Ecuador. What time is it?
It is 2:05 a.m. here, sir.
Well, you know what makes me happy? Because it makes me happy that you're out here on the street, brother, and you know exactly what time it is. Brandy, what time is it over there?
It's also 2:05.
Wow. Interesting. I didn't know you guys matched up. That's interesting.
I'm directly below Houston, Texas, actually.
Oh, sweet.
And I know which way the wind's blowing, too, baby.
I have to point out, this is a major Mandela effect. actually.
Is it?
Yeah, the South America has moved basically 2,000 miles to the east. Now, whether you believe it or not, doesn't matter. I'm just saying that is the thing. Like, so you can draw a line from Texas straight down the west coast of South America, where before it was farther west. In some people's memory, true or not?
Well,
Just saying.
all I know is all my exes live in Texas, and that's why I lives in Tennessee. So, Giuseppe Fangulo, tell me about this blackout. I want to hear detailed descriptions of exactly how this 5-man team could take down the grid in these 5 metropolitan areas. Please
In this
continue.
fictional report written by G. Gordon Liddy for the president,
Thank you.
he writes, since the devastating New York City blackout of 1977, much has been done by way of redundancy to protect entire nets from chain reaction failures. Nevertheless, the terrorists exploited a vulnerability brought to government attention several administrations ago and ignored since by Dr. Robert H. Cooperman of the Center for Strategic and International Studies. The terrorists did their homework very thoroughly. Cooperman's point is as follows. In order to achieve economies of scale, generated electric power is transmitted over long distances at extremely high voltage, EHV. Think of a power line as a water pipe. In electrical terms, amperage is the flow of water through the pipe. Voltage is the pressure. The higher the pressure, the greater the amount of water any given pipe can transport. To get water under pressure requires an EVHV transformer. EHV requires an EHV transformer both to step the voltage up and at the beginning of its destination. There are only about 500 EHV transformers in the entire nation. Their locations are shown on a map available to the public. Most are protected by no more than a chain link fence and warning signs that serve to confirm exactly what they are. EHV transformers are sophisticated pieces of equipment not manufactured in the United States. The lead time for delivery of a new one from abroad is 18 months. They can be pulled out of operation by a high-powered rifle. Thus, a small number of terrorists, a few using a .458 caliber Winchester Magnum rifle, as was the woman killed by the SEALs, and the rest Israeli-made copies of our Marine Corps' new 40-millimeter lightweight polymer ceramic near handgun-side grenade launchers.
Oh my God.
Took out the few key EHV transformers around Washington District of Criminals, New York, Newark, Boston, Chicago, Dallas, Fort Worth, Atlanta, Oakland, San Francisco, and LA.
Jesus.
San Diego was saved when an element of SEAL Team 3 on a security penetration test mission came upon one of the terrorists who panicked and fired at them. After killing her, the SEALs grasped her mission, alerted their superiors, and in short order, we had nearly half the few prisoners captured to date. The aftermath of the EHV attack has been devastating.
So
there is no power for the water supply pumps. The effect of arson is impossible to control. Martial law is barely able to maintain order now that the stores are looted and burned. Vigilante justice is rampant. Sanitation is broken down, and the rats are out of control in New York City. It will take 6 months to a year under emergency conditions to acquire and replace the transformers and restore electrical power. And I will just interject, can you imagine how many people will die without power in 6 months to a year?
Let me just say, Epic Journeyman, you are we actually have an expert on the panel on this particular subject. So Epic Journeyman, explain your qualifications. You are a high voltage electrician, are you not?
Yeah, I work, not only have worked for many things in the electrical industry, but I also I've worked in water. And so, and I worked in the defense industry, both as a sonar technician, acoustic analyst, submarine technician, and UAVs and robotics. So it's a diverse resume, of course, but the thing is, this particular aspect of it, when we talk about infrastructure, I'm well acquainted with, and the idea is absolutely true. If you take out these transformers, it's not necessarily 18 months, but it's months. It's definitely months. There's no question about it. We've improved since Gordon Liddy's conjecture here. But the thing is that it only takes one of these things to break down. Like that's what people are sometimes miss. So if you take the water out, it doesn't matter, right? If you take the electricity out, it doesn't matter if the other one's working. If you take the electricity out, it takes the water out too. If you take the water out, people are going to die within 4 days, right? So I mean, this is how nefarious this kind of plan is. There's the things that we depend on for our society, our modern society, are very fragile. When that line that Giuseppe just read about it being a chain link fence basically is the only thing between disaster and our everyday life. That's true.
Well, let me point this out. I brought this up on the show, and then I want to hear from Dave Scorpio. Dave, make sure you bulldozer in here. But I want to bring this up, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm a systems integrator, and at one point, with my company, I was doing a bunch of stuff, and I noticed, with the whole terrorist thing that was going on, I noticed a niche in there. I noticed an area where I could go in and make some money for myself and help protect the country at the same time. So it's a win-win situation. I get to make some money. Country gets to be saved some hassle. So what I did was I integrated some systems together that existed independently, but I put them together into a package. And one of the pieces in that system was a piece of fiber optic cable that was on a system. It was a ring, and the ring would go around whatever you want to put it around. And it's called a perimeter intrusion or a perimeter detection system, PDS. So what's interesting about this fiber optic cable is that not only you can build a big as ring as you want around a big piece of property as you want, but you can put them in a fence. In other words, you can put this cable and weave it through a chain link fence around a chain link fence. You could also put this cable on the top of a fence or on top of a wall, so that the way this operation works is when you touch the cable, it disturbs the flow of light through the cable, and that particular point, the equipment shoots out to a distance, and it knows that at a specific place on the cable it was disturbed. Okay, and what it does is it says it was disturbed now at this time and at this GPS location on this cable. So it gives you a precise GPS location of the disturbance. And this system is so dialed in that not only does it work in the ring, but if you cut the cable, it still works from one end. So, and it's also programmable in the sense that you're probably saying to yourself, well, Jimmy, this sounds like a piece of shit because, I got, I'm out in a rural area. I got deer. I got all this stuff. I'm going to have all these alarms going off and this and that and the other thing. And then I say to you, well, yeah, I know that's what it seems like, but this is actually programmable. So it knows the difference between the weight and power of a deer as opposed to a human being. So you can literally you can dial this in. But then I found out I couldn't sell this to the government because I didn't have this certain training. So FEMA offers training to contractors that do telecommunications work to help out in the event of a disaster. So it's disaster management, and you put your name in a list that you're somebody that knows how to do telecom. So if there's an emergency, they'll contact you to help bring stuff back online, this type of thing. So I went ahead and got certified in a bunch of these FEMA programs. So I'm FEMA certified. I'm on a list of people that, will go out and help or whatever. But the point I'm making is, after I went through all that, no one was interested in protecting any of these electrical facilities that I was trying to sell this idea to. And in that moment, I realized that, well, maybe this terrorist threat that we've been beat over the head with all that time, because at this time I wasn't even really into this information. I was running a company. So at that time is when I realized, you know what, man, maybe the threat isn't as bad as they say it's going to be. Maybe it's not what they say it is, and that's when I started looking into this shit. Really, that was actually the moment that on a public television broadcast in Santa Cruz, they were playing one of Alex Jones's first films, The Road to Tyranny, 9/11, The Road to Tyranny, where they had he had this. It's really raw, but it had the dudes in Congress standing up, la la la, la 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 la. La 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 la, and they're all standing up and shit. It was terrifying. But anyway, point is I thought the threat was made up at that point, and we can see that what Epic Journeyman is saying is they haven't even done anything to this, and just like Gigi Gordon Liddy said, well, it's just a chain link fence. So how protected is the infrastructure? Could you sit across there with a rifle, like you say, in a high-powered rifle, and take this shit out? It sounds like it. It sounds like it's not that hard,
With
man.
a kite and some tinfoil, dude.
With a kite and some tinfoil.
Udemy.
Yep.
You the man.
No, that's true. That's true.
Scorpio, what do you think? What are you thinking,
Well,
man? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, Jimmy, when Giuseppe read the part about rats being on the streets in New York City, I think that's already happened.
I knew it. Yeah, I was thinking the same
And,
thing.
you know, I would just add that, you know, once they clean up the mess from this scenario that we're reading about and talking about, doesn't it set the stage perfectly to demand a global reset, the Great Reset? There'll be no other choice. We can't go back to the way things were, can we?
No, we can't. And you know what I think we should do? I think we should bounce over the top of the natural gas and get right to the wiping out of the Federal Reserve and the Wall Street information. But we're not there yet, Scorpio. So what about the water situation? Because, like, you know, like Epic was saying, water is a key moment in one of these scenarios. Now, you live down Ecuador. Now, do you just get your water right out of the faucet? I mean, you got no problems. I mean, you can drink water out of the faucet. You don't get sick. You don't get, you know, any dysenteries or any of this stuff.
No. They got real clean infrastructure and water here.
And do you got a well on your property? Do you get your stuff from the city or do you get it off the well?
No, I've got actually, I've got
No
a
pun
couple
intended.
sources. There's a river, right? A super clean river, right behind my property, and then up above there's a spring that I tapped into for drinking water.
Nice. Well, let me ask you this question now. And you're out of here. You're down there. If the power went out in New York City, would you give a shit down there?
I don't think many people would.
No, I don't mean
outside
from
of New York City.
I don't mean it from a human perspective, but I just mean your life's not changing much if the power goes out in the 5 metropolitan areas in the United States of America, is it?
No.
So I'd say it's a wise move to be outside of America, especially when America becomes the enemy into itself. Isn't it not eating itself? America's eating itself right now, is it not?
Sure it is, but you know, I think they have a plan cooked up to screw up every nation on the planet at the same time, using different methods.
I think so too, but I think mostly the real key to all of this globalism is harmonization. And the biggest way to harmonize the world in a quick way is to take down America. And one of the easiest ways is through, like Epic was saying, man, it's the water system. Mom's Jimmy. It's into the microcosm. Get ready, Giuseppe. Let's figure out what's happening in Wall Street. Because the reset's coming, and you know what it's going to be? It's going to be Bitcoin-style Fed coins. It's in the microcosm. Giuseppe Vavabu. Oh, you that? The Standells, man. Dirty water. Are you there, Giuseppe? I do not hear you, sir. Am I here by myself?
I'm here.
Oh, there you go. I see you now. You have materialized before me. Please bestow upon me the heinous plan, because I'm telling you, I see parallels, and I see a lot of in this hypothetical article that was written by G. Gordon Liddy in 1989, Omni Magazine, that we're bringing to the table tonight. And this is tabletop exercise right here with Giuseppe Falfangulo, Dave Scorpio, Epic Journeyman, and Brandy Lou. And we're about to get into, we're hopping over the natural gas. We can see that that's a hassle. We see it's a problem.
And the rail systems are choked at 2 points, the D.C. area and Cincinnati, which essentially taking out those bridges in that area clogs everything.
Right.
So no more rail traffic, no more just-in-time metal shipping containers, the gas for cooking and heating your water is gone. And so now the final blow to take this country down is the taking down Wall Street and the banks. So he describes it as computer database erasure of Wall Street, 6 Federal Reserve banks, 2 IRS service centers, several of the largest commercial banks, and numerous corporations produces fiscal chaos. And he writes in the memorandum, fictional to the president, the same small teams that attacked the AHV transformers serving New York, Washington, Dallas, Atlanta, Boston, Chicago, and San Fran then used man-transportable electromagnetic pulse generators, that's interesting, EMPGs, to erase computer databases in those cities. The extent of the havoc is now becoming clear as all but the cash monetary system collapses. A special operations capable Marine Expeditionary Unit, SOCMU, exercising in Louisiana, was alerted by the demolition of a natural gas pipeline at a river crossing. By dawn, they had killed 6 and captured 4 from 2 separate 5-man terrorist teams. Captured with one team was its EMPG, the EM pulse generator. The EMPG, cruder and more bulky than our own classified device, appears to be of Soviet origin. While both theirs and ours use superconductors, theirs is coupled with an explosion, whereas ours uses an implosion for greater yield. The best minds we have are trying to figure out ways to reconstruct what was lost through retrieval of partial data from unaffected network components. They are working first on the governmental losses. It may, for example, be possible through the use of old paper records that may survive in local offices, as well as any correspondence in the hands of individual citizens, to reconstruct some of the Social Security system. We may, however, have to ask Congress to consider some sort of post-catastrophic forgiveness or moratorium, a jubilee, and a fresh start for some of the private sector. The loss of Social Security records causes the most severe impact on civilians. The government is more devastated by the loss of IRS records. Many experts have for years been worried about computer viruses. Their threat is minor compared to that of the EMPG, which erases everything. Records of treasury bonds, VA checks, pension plans, military pensions. Some military installations are protected from EMPGs, but none of the civilian military ones are, such as those installations where records and military pensions are kept.
Wow. I'm going to tell you right now, it sounds like the Great Reset. This sounds like the...
This is from the Liddy article, right? And so the thing about this that's interesting is that in 1991, I want to say it was 2 years after this article, Congress had a meeting about security threats where they specifically brought up that a device that was created from and deployed from a van for $500 could reset Wall Street, could take out Wall Street completely, could just take it out with the EMP pulse. So this $500 device deployed in a van could drive up, down to the avenue there and totally eliminate everything and reset Wall Street, essentially, this $500 device. And it's a real thing. You can look it up. I mean, this is something that was discussed. And so what Liddy was talking about isn't something that was some far-fetched thing. And nothing he's talking about is far-fetched at all. These are all things he knew about. And it's so interesting that he ended up being tied so intimately with Timothy Leary when they would go do these tours around together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that does come into play.
It does
come into play. It ties the psychology to the technology.
It does. And you know what? This is a tabletop exercise live right here, Aftermath.fm. Giuseppe Vafangulo, Dave Scorpio, Epic Journeyman, Brandy Lou, and myself, and you, everybody out there. And we're going to open up these phones here at the bottom of the hour. So when you hear me playing some music, that's your cue to call in. And everybody on the panel, that's your cue to get something to drink. We're coming home to the last half hour of the show. And we need to finish up on our tabletop exercise and see if we can come to a conclusion. And we're going to get some feedback from the audience here in a minute. 626-999-4761. 626-999-4761. If you want to get in on the tabletop exercise, if you have solutions, or if you see something across the landscape that we're not seeing, we want your input. And so let's continue here. Dave Scorpio. Doesn't this now? This is like the third thing in here that we're seeing, and we've saw the hacking of the pipeline, so that's also a similar one of these out of this 5 things that we've seen. We've also seen what was described as a riot in this scenario that was written in '89, describing the Capitol Hill riot. Same one that we've seen here recently. Some of the measures with the with the COVID disease or whatever it is, the mind disease or the mind worm, COVID. That seems that they shut down the airline industry. Similar 70. What does it say? It calls this for 90% of a shutdown, but I would say it was more like I'd say it's about a 70%, but I mean pretty close. Dave Scorpio. So. It seems like a lot of these little terrorist ideas that are in this fake scenario here have turned up to be actual boots on the ground things that are going on right now under these measures. What do you think about the wiping out of Wall Street and then the new, hey, forget about it now, we're just going to go with the new Fed coin. And now we'll be under the Bitcoin, Fed coin, and everybody that got their money out, see, they knew this was going to happen. So everybody exited to Bitcoin and gold and these different assets, properties with these inflated dollars that they have. They instead of letting them rot in the bank and turn into nothing, everybody's spending their money buying up everything in sight, because when this happens, everything's going to get wiped out except for the actual physical assets that you have. Go ahead, Dave Scorpio. What's going to happen to the banks? Go ahead.
Well, first of all, I think they'll have a secret ledger somewhere where all the oligarchs get to keep all their stuff. And of course, this would necessitate a fully digital return of currency. And I don't think they'll ever let go of the control of a central bank, because the central bank is the root of all of the control. The fractional reserve central banking is how they're able to do all of this. That's the root of the problem right there. And any new system they conjure up, that will be the center point of it, just like it is today.
Well, out of the chaos, out of the ashes will rise the phoenix bird. And that phoenix bird will say, hey, Jack, if you want your money back and you want your Social Security, you're going to come down here and scan your eyeball and put your finger out and let me get some blood and let me get your DNA. Because you ain't getting back on the new internet, and you're not getting into the system unless you got that. And as far as anything else is concerned, you're Mad Max, son. You're running wild, running free across the wild plains, driving cars and breaking through roadblocks. And, when everybody's watching those dystopic movies, people always think of themselves as the hero in the movie. Like, you're the guy who's going to be surviving, and you're the one running around, surviving. But check this out, man. That's only going to be like maybe 1 in 1,000. And it's probably not going to be you. Unless you figure some shit out and get your shit squared away now. Because listen, man, look at 5 people, teams. I mean, these guys are nobodies, man. They're working at the gas station. The other guy's driving Uber Eats, whatever. And then in the middle of the night, they get a phone call and they say, hey, Bob, go meet Pete down at the airport. You know the spot. And he goes, yeah, I'll be there.
Or like the movie, it's Andromeda Strain, right? There's a wildfire in the disco, the boy.
There's a wildfire. Yeah, exactly. You know, and there's not going to be anybody on the TV telling anybody what to do. And if you're a smart ass with your cell phone thinking you know everything, because you could just Google it up on the slide, look at it to the side, and just go, oh, yeah, it's this and it's that, because you can read it on the internet. Well, that's one thing, but when the power goes out, man, if it's not in your brain, it doesn't exist. And if you don't have books, you're out of luck. So, you know, hey, man, look around. Look at the nature around you, at your feet, when there's not a squirrel or a pigeon anywhere. And all there is rats to eat and cockroaches and, cricket sandwiches. It looks just like Klaus Schwab, saying, hey, forget about the meat. We're being sold. We're being prepared for a moment that's coming. Nobody knows when it's going to be, but everybody's making a shitload of money along the way because there's all these things along the way. It looks like it's about to happen, and it doesn't. And so people want to get prepared, and then they see it doesn't happen, and then they get sick of going prepared. Get sick of the world getting ready to end. Get sick of buying gold and storing food and, all this shit. Everybody's sick of it. To the point where nobody believes it anymore. Isn't that the exact story of Chicken Little? What about Crying Wolf?
The Disney Chicken Little, man. Yeah, absolutely. Where they come in, spoiler alert, and the fox is eating them all with his fat belly at the end. Yeah, dude. We're gonna talk about that actually tomorrow.
That's right.
So yeah.
All right, well, in the meantime, 626-999-4761, 626-999-4761. Time for a break. Everybody get a drink of water. Take a breath. This isn't real. This is a mock scenario created by G. Gordon Liddy in a mock letter to the president warning him about top possible terrorist activity, which was dug up by Giuseppe Vaffanculo with his pick and shovel axe. And with his buddy by himself, Dave Scorpio over there, Giuseppe Vaffanculo. Tell everybody where they can find you before I get into this music and we take a break. So tomorrow you got a show on The Perfect Triangle, Giuseppe. What time is that? Where can they find it? And let everybody know what you're going to be up to. You're muted. Dave Scorpio, what do you got going on Saturday on your show?
Okay, well, my show comes on from 1 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time, Studio A on Revolution Radio. And, for hour 2, going to bring on Russ Winter, the great writer and thinker. He's got an incredible website, very popular. He always has insightful things to say when we bring him on. And then hour 3, I'm going to have the rebel madman himself, Mike Gaddy, along with Daryl Wayne, the retired pilot, a man who actually was one of the first people to fly directly over the Twin Towers.
Wow.
After the so-called collapse of the buildings. And Jimmy, he actually saw the whole site glowing red when he flew over.
Wow, man. That sounds wild. Damn, I'll be tuning in for that one, bad boy, because on Saturday I am moving into a new studio space that Into the Microcosm is leased, and we're going to have a full-on recording studio type atmosphere, so it means I can get as loud as I want. We can play music. I can invite my friends, musicians from the Bay Area to show up, and we can do a whole thing where they're playing live, and I got it all mic'd up and coming into the show. So get ready for some fucking, we're going to be throwing down on this show. And Dave Scorpio, thanks for coming tonight. I really appreciate it. And make sure you stay on the line after the show because I want to talk to you about something business. And
right on, brother. I'll be there.
All right. Giuseppe Vaffanculo, are you there, man?
I'm here.
Jawohl. We were talking about it before, ladies and gentlemen. We were talking about Hogan's Heroes before. What a great show that was. But that Bob Crane dude, man. Giuseppe. Bob Crane in real life, he was like a sex fiend. He was snorting blow. He had a giant cock. I mean,
he filmed himself 90 pounds overweight.
Well, Giuseppe,
Threesome or whatever,
in case people don't remember, tell people what happened to that dude, man.
So Bob Crane. Go ahead, Giuseppe.
Yeah,
I've talked too much.
And then tell everybody what's happening on the Perfect Triangle tomorrow. Go ahead.
Well, Bob Crane was America's sweetheart. You know, he was this clean-cut looking guy, the hero of Hogan's Heroes. Then he did people might remember that he migrated to being a game show host. But old Bob, for that clean-cut facade, had a raging coke habit, was a monstrous sex addict who liked to do all kinds of incredibly kinky things with multiple partners, and was very effective at seducing women, telling them they were going to be able to get into show business. And so he was on a roll, man, a big roll, and he wielded a monster appendage between his two scrawny legs, and but it caught up to him. And Bob was the husband or boyfriend of one of the women he seduced, and Crane would video it all. He had elaborate video equipment in the day, you know, almost like professional quality. And Bob was found murdered, and he was choked out with the cord of one of his video cameras after being beaten pretty much to death before that.
Man,
I know nothing.
No.
I see nothing.
Oh my God, man.
Nothing,
Ow, man.
nothing.
Ow, man. That's my eye, man.
I mean, come on, right? I mean, seriously.
Seriously.
Yeah, no, yeah, for real. It's one of those things that just haunts us, right? Because it should haunt everybody, man. It should, because it was such a prevalent role in society that Hogan's Heroes had.
We should do a whole show. You guys want to do it? You know what? Here you go, Giuseppe. Next week when you come back, let's do a whole show on Hogan's Heroes, the esoteric value of Hogan's Heroes. You want to come back, Dave? For Hogan's Heroes?
Bring him back.
Oh, absolutely, man. And, you know, I don't think you could make a show like Hogan's Heroes today. It would be too offensive.
Yeah, boy. Here we go. Let everybody get ready to take a quick break. We're going to play a little bit of music. And when we come back, give us a call, 626-999-4761, 626-999-4761. This ain't your granddaddy's late night. It's in the microcosm, aftermath.fm. Tune in, turn on, and find out. Here's one of the best bands from the hard pop era of the Bay Area. Still got vocals, excellent guitars. You only know them for one song, but they had many more. Bunch of albums. Greg Kim Band. I'm Jimmy, Madison Avenue Man. Aftermath FM. I'm Jimmy, 626-999-4761. 626-999-4761. 626 mute up 999-4761. Aftermath FM. It's into the microcosm. Monday through Friday right here, 10:30 Pacific, immediately following Clyde Lewis and the Ground Zero Boys. Let me tell you something. It's the place to be.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
626-999-4761. 626-999-4761. Mom to Jimmy. Dave Scorpio. Giuseppe Valvangulo. The Epic Journeyman. And Brandy Lou. 626 999 4761.
I'm a man. I spell him H-I-N. That rubber thing, man. No B. Whoa, child. Why? That mean manish boy. I'm a man. I'm a full-grown man. I'm a man. I'm a natural-born lover's man. I'm a man. I'm a rolling stone. I'm a man. I'm a hoochie coochie man. Sitting on the outside. Just me and my mate. You know I'm made to move.
626 999 4761. 626 999 4761. 15 minutes left.
Well, let's pivot back to our guests here a little bit while we're waiting.
Hang on a second there, son. Hang on.
Oh.
Got a message in our music. We got a message in our music. There's a message in our song. So come along and sing. We got a message in our music. We got a message in our music. There's a message in our song.
Hey, 202. Thanks for calling. What's going on, man?
Hey there, Jimmy.
How you doing? How do you feeling
Doing
about
all right.
how you feeling about this tabletop exercise? It actually has actually got me by the balls, man. This thing is actually turning out to be a situation. What do you think about it, man?
I think that there's a lot of predictive programming in it, especially for what he was able to write out and what you guys are breaking down. I think more people should be doing these kind of things, at least thinking about it. And I have for the past several years, and that's why I finally, moved out of the East Bay area, close to where you are, to move up to northern Idaho, because this is like a prepper mecca in this northern panhandle area for Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just amazing the meetings that we have talking about the kind of stuff that you guys are going over, but on the preparation side, just thinking about it and planning for the worst case scenario, to the point of just no power, no food coming in, and just trying to figure out how to set up and sustain and get a group of people together to create a network. And that's what this area has always been like. But being here in the Northwestern Rockies, it's different. It's nice that it's isolated, hard to get through. If it gets to the point where people are going to have to be trekking around on foot, it's excuse me, safe that way. And we're on a 46-mile long glacial lake, so we have plenty of water that way. So we have some of these basics, plenty for fishing for a while and then hunting. But
have you seen?
Of course, people.
Have you seen a scattering or an influx of interlopers from these urban areas since the measures that have taken place over the last year and a half or whatever? Have you seen a bunch of new people moving in, and has there been an influx?
Oh, there's a ton. Yeah, there is literally nothing as far as property for sale and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's
there's really nothing, and I live right here in Sandpoint. We have our executive airport right here, and there's nothing but Lear jets just flying in all day long. And my neighbor, who's a real estate agent, said that everybody, as soon as April of last year, as soon as all this shit started taking place, the wealthy people of beans and obviously people who knew more of what was going on started bugging out, specifically buying up properties, people coming in from San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, and Manhattan in this area. So they started buying up these properties with real estate agents over FaceTime, just having the real estate agent walk through with an iPhone, just showing the property inside and going, yeah, we'll take that, and then give over asking price for these things. So pushing out a lot of people that are looking, the middle class.
I want to talk about that actually.
Yeah, jump in there, man.
So I was lucky, like in the sense that I decided to leave my corporate world in 2017 and move to Hawaii and buy some property, right? So I bought my property, I bought my house, and I'm a homeowner now, right? It's a shack out in the middle of the jungle with koki frogs and fire ants, but at least it's my place, right? And so I think what's happening
is your shack.
It's my shack, right? It's my shack, And so the thing about this is that I'm looking at what's happening now in property rates, just like before the collapse in 2008. It's the same kind of thing. The housing bubble is going to blow up right now because people are all of a sudden interested in homeownership. But the thing is, all these other corporate entities are trying to buy out the homes.
Blackwater,
Blackstone,
BlackRock,
Blackstone, yeah.
BlackRock.
That's true. No, it's 100% true. It's not some fabrication. That's absolutely true. And so, my house is like tripled in value. It's a shack in the frickin' jungle, right? With koki frogs and fire ants, without me doing anything to try to improve it. And that's not right, man. That's not right. And so the thing is, if you have an opportunity to how can I phrase this? If you have an opportunity to get property, get it right. Get it now.
Now.
Get it now.
Right now.
Because what's going to happen is we did our conjecture, our speculation island thing that I put forward last night, saying Jeff Bezos, he's going to die in that space launch. He is. right? Or if it doesn't happen then, it's going to happen. Something like that's going to happen. He's going to disappear.
Well, I'll
right? Because
tell you what.
all these oligarchs
I'll
are.
tell you what I'll do at 9 minutes. Hang on a second. 4, 3, 2. When 9 minutes left, what I'm gonna do, Epic Journeyman, is I will entertain your Jeff
Entertain.
Bezos.
We
I
don't
will
believe in this show,
entertain your
100%.
Jeff Bezos, but I will not subscribe to it. But go ahead.
Right. So exactly. Entertain the idea that I'm putting forward. My speculation idea is that Jeff Bezos is going to pull an Elvis. Not saying that Elvis didn't actually die. I think Elvis probably did actually die. He was fat and overweight and, enjoying his life at the time and on the toilet when he died. So that's probably true.
Well, the
But-
character of Elvis died. Whether Elvis himself, the actual person that played Elvis, died or not, we don't know. But what we do know
Yes.
is that what we saw in the storyline that was put forward in heavy rotation on the mainstream media and the psychological development departments across the globe is that a lot of people took a kick in the nuts when the king went down, man.
All I'm saying is that Jeff Bezos has every reason to disappear right now. Everybody hates him. Everybody hates the fact that this social elite get all this money and don't pay taxes. And he's made all this money off of the pandemic. And all of a sudden, wait, me and my brother are going up into space with my dildo-shaped rocket. The first people ever do it with some $4 million bidder. And if we all happen to die along the way, oh, man. Well, I mean,
we got 7
come on,
minutes
man.
left.
Come on,
we
man.
got 7 minutes
It's like a little
left.
setup.
Hey, we got 7 minutes left. Let's leave the real estate market and go over there to
And bring our guests back in. So Giuseppe and Scorpio, please
jump in here
weigh
with the caller because Giuseppe. You're still there near the district of criminals, but Dave, you jumped out just like the caller has, and you're off doing your thing someplace else. And this is what I want to point out. Let me just do this real quick. We only have a few minutes. Look, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a single person and you can work on your computer from anywhere, you can work from home, bone out of the United States immediately. There's countries that are offering people money and places to stay and all this other shit if you go and work from home from their country. So this is an opportunity for you to bone out. You got the materials, you got the paperwork to leave, go. You can go. And Dave, you went and you're down there. So tell people about what it's like for you because you boned out of the country. You're an expatriate over there, and you're going to come back. But I'm just saying, you got a spot down there. You got it going on for yourself, coffee and stuff. Go ahead, tell everybody what you're doing down there, man.
Well, yeah, I've got a fairly large-sized property. Part of it has coffee on it. I've built a couple of houses on it, and I guess part of the reason I feel the calling to go home is that I do think these COVID passports are going to manifest into reality very quickly, and I will never take that shot into my cold, dead arm. It'll go. So I think, kind of what it comes down to, Jimmy, is as things come apart, it's all a matter of where do you want to be when that happens? Because I don't think there's any escaping it on this planet coming in the next few years, 5 years maybe, who knows? It's going to come down, where do you want to be?
It will. And, I saw a thing today where Joe Biden was making a speech or something, and the lines that I saw that were highlighted in bold were something about the next biological attack. And believe me, there's going to be more of them and this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is now this other terrorist type scenario that we're talking about in conjunction with, say, realistically, I almost don't even want to say it, but if somebody was sick and they got on an airplane, they didn't even know they were sick. They didn't know they were a carrier. They just were. Somehow they got infected by somebody. They were at a bagel shop, getting a coffee, and somebody came and sprayed some shit on them, and they got on an airplane, and next thing you know, there's a weird situation going on. It showed that in this fake terrorist attack, and all it took was one lady with a Sharpie where they found chemicals that could cut your plane in half once it hits the airplane. So, caller, we got 4 minutes left. Any last words? Because Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that, one of the reasons I picked up here is just the fact that it's more remote. It's in the mountains, and I contemplated several different places outside the United States. But, when the shit hits the fan, I want to be in a place that I'm more familiar with the what I can actually use, have all my firearms with me, because in so many other countries I wouldn't be allowed to even have anything like that, even if I had property. But up here in this section, the one thing it's a bug out spot for. It's an incredible amount of police retirees up here, especially for LAPD. A lot of military.
Nice.
And
well, those are definitely the kind of people you want to have around and organize. If anything hits the fan, because like I was saying earlier, a lot of people, they don't realize that. Hey man, cops got families too, man, and people that work for the military, people that work in the agencies and all this stuff. The regular people, boots on the ground dudes, just the guys on the street or whatever, man, they all got families. What are they going to do? I mean, they're going to go. Listen, we are out of time, man. Thanks for calling. Really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you tomorrow night. It's all about Disney tomorrow night and the fantasy of that Disney. But listen, thanks for calling. Giuseppe Vaffangulo.
Sure.
Dave, Scorpio, Epic Journeyman, Brandy, Lou. I got to play a couple things before we go out for this show. It absolutely has to happen. We got 2 minutes. Say goodbye, because here it comes right now.
Aloha, everybody.
Buonanotte.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow night. It's into the microcosm tabletop exercise number 2. G. Gordon Liddy. Thanks to Giuseppe Vaffangulo for uncovering and unearthing the potentiality of this scenario tonight. And let me just say, a lot of the result of these scenarios has shown up in this exact thing that's gone on here in our country for the last little bit. It's in the microcosm, aftermath.fm.
What is democracy?
Got something to do with young men killing each other, I believe.
When it comes my turn, will you want me to go?
For democracy, any man would give his only begotten son.
It's aftermath.fm. Get your shit together, man. Nobody's gonna save you but you. That is Mike Dawes. It's aftermath.fm. Good night. We'll see you tomorrow night. Enjoy. Take care. right, there we go. We're clear. So we're clear from the network. We're still live on YouTube. Hey, what's up, YouTube? How you guys doing over there? Who's left on the call? You guys still here? Hey, Eric, what's going on? Brent,
Hey, YouTube.
What's going on, Spike? What's going on, John? What's going on, Eric? Let me see. I'm just yelling you guys out over here. Brandy Lou's over there, too. You still here, Brandy? Let me see. Regular girls over there. Brent, I see him shouting the clouds. Let's see who else is over there. Lovejoy. What's up, man? Shouting the clouds still over there. Let me see who else. Aaron's over there. What's up, Droner? It's good to see everybody. Hang on, I'm just scrolling back. What's up, Wanda? Let me see. If you're in there now, say something, because if I didn't see you, I'm just scrolling back. Hey, Wanda, what's up? You having a smoke? Yeah, I would, too. I'm about to have a smoke myself. So, hey, great show. Thanks to Giuseppe Fafangulo and Dave. Are you guys still here?
Yes, sir, I am.
Bro.
Excellent. Excellent.
I really would like to hear Dave
I know.
say what he thought about we've been talking about, because he didn't get a synopsis opportunity, I don't think.
Yeah, man. And
yeah. So what do you think? I mean, like this is some stuff that I think we all kind of know, right? But how do you think about it?
Well, you know, one thing that kind of comes to my mind, guys, is Jimmy, you kind of bring everyone to a higher level when, you know, it's kind of like being in a really good band. You push each other to a higher level, and I felt like I was part of something like that tonight, man. It's really cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
And,
it was cool
I also
tonight.
like just the way, you know, this subject matter is approached. You never know where it's going to go. It's multi-layered, and I thought the whole thing from G. Gordon Liddy, it's just amazing. And then the conclusion is, hey, this is the perfect setup for the Great Reset, the global reset. We can't go back, man. It's not going to be possible, baby.
Totally, man. You know, and the thing is look, I mean, we can all, it doesn't matter which storyline starts to become prevalent and to get in a heavy rotation. We can see that all these measures over the past year and a half, they fit so many of the programs that are out there. In other words, hey man, you know, there was less planes in the air, there's less cars on the road, there's less shit going in the atmosphere. It was good. The birds were singing, the sun was out. It's just like they wanted to be without all those pesky cars, or you know, without all that pesky oil. You know, just fits right in. I mean, all of these things fit right in, and it's just, and you know, it seems like we're out here in a big crowd, and we're all going funneled into a chute, you know, and at the chute, and it all goes into a single file line where we just stand there, and it just goes, and they're just poking everybody in the side like they did in Star Trek. Remember that thing? That weird thing where the bones would give somebody an injection. It'd be some weird cattle.
Bones.
They just poke it into you, man. You know what I mean? So I think you're 100% right. I mean, being where you're planning on being and with who you're planning on being there with is the thing that people should really start considering, man. And I don't mean that from a weird, being paranoid perspective. I mean, just look at the landscape. And if you're a crisis mitigator, you're looking for shit that can go wrong that's going to fuck your shit up. You got a plan, point A to point B, critical path. So on my critical path, I am scanning the horizon for anything that's going to...
First step, full tank of gas, man. No shit.
No
that
shit.
is really what it is.
No shit.
Comes down to that.
Full tank of gas. But if you got an electric car, what happens if the power goes out? You're fucked, is what happens. Unless you got a generator in the trunk, you know, like a Honda.
I do.
See, I'm just saying, these are the things people don't even consider, man. It's like, hey, electric cars, yeah, hell yeah, man, that's a badass. Let me go get me a Tesla. Hey, I got my Tesla.
Well, then you have to ride it like Fred Flintstone with his feet.
Yeah, but when all the satellite connections go out to your car, and it just drives itself, even though you're behind the wheel, it just takes over.
It drives away. It runs away from you.
Going straight into the wall at, like, you know, however fast. Anyways, Giuseppe Vaffangulo, man, hats off to you, brother, man. Kick ass. presentation.
Yeah, thanks, man.
You know, two takeaways I grabbed from that article and the ensuing decades is number one, that the low working level to middle management, law enforcement, FBI, our military, they're doing their job, because there's never been a real terrorist attack. Every false flag terrorist attack like 9/11 has been synthetically produced. It wasn't actual terrorists. And to me, one of the big tells from that was when they did run those whatever into the Twin Towers, and whatever that missile type thing hit the Pentagon. If that was a real terrorist attack coordinated by a real mastermind, there would have been follow-up events in LA and Chicago. You would have activated all your sleeper cells.
Well, that's what they thought was gonna happen, though. And everyone did, and that's why everyone just gave in. It's because they thought we were at war, and you know what I mean. I mean, not they. I mean us. Everyone thought we're at war, man. You know, when they showed that on TV, they just kept showing it.
Again, that psyops and that psychological trauma that they were using.
Well, my point was that if it was real, that savvy terrorists would have activated multiple cells, and there would have been the kind of events ongoing, like Liddy said. You wouldn't just, do something silly like the Twin Towers and the Pentagon. You would continue if it was real war, you would have continued with multiple ongoing attacks.
That would have been the big news story for the rest of the world, is those things happening like we saw. But the other dudes being in place to do what you're talking about and to do what G. Gordon Liddy's talking about, that could be done anytime. And those guys, and as soon as they see, in other words, that could be the trigger. In other words, if this was real with a whole force of people going against the United States trying to decapitate, so the signal to you would be, listen, Bob, whenever you see the World Trade Centers descent into free fall speed and turn into dust, that's when you know it's time for you to go meet Pete over at the airport.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, I don't know how long you guys want to continue. I'm super tired, and I'm ready to...
I am too.
Yeah, I'm ready to go, so...
I got to tell you one thing, that I interviewed Greg Kinn twice. That was an awesome band. Saw him live.
Greg Kinn band. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
We'd love to hear about it, Giuseppe. I'm telling you, like that's one of the things that is like the missing element of some of this stuff, is that people have personal experience with some of these people.
He was a great guy.
He was.
Nice,
he is.
funny.
He is. He had a radio.
Still alive, right?
Yeah, he had a radio show here for a while on a radio 98.5. And he was doing a morning thing, but he writes books now, so he's a fiction writer along the lines of Stephen King. So if you like Stephen King type shit, go check out Greg King, because he wrote a bunch of books.
Stephen King lives in Maui.
Does he?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if he does now. He had started Civic Construction to build this place in Hana, right? Mm-hmm. And so he left Maine to build this place here in Maui, and I don't know if he lives here now or not, but he started a whole construction company to do that. How weird is that, right?
Well, yeah, because he wants to write. He wants to write the whole thing off and buy everything it costs. That's why. Here you go. We're out of here, man. Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll see you tomorrow night with Disney, and next week I think we should do Hogan's Heroes / Rollerball for Thursday night. So
Rollerball is a great movie, man.
Yeah. All right.
AI, dude. AI.
All right. So listen, Dave, Giuseppe, come back next week. Hogan's Heroes and Rollerball.
Right on, brother. I'll be there.
All right. Kick ass. I'll talk to you.
Hey, thanks. That was great, Jimmy.
Hey, listen, Dave, I'm gonna call you right after we hang up. I'm gonna just call you on a private call.
Okay.
Oh, you can be on there too, Giuseppe. All right. Listen, I'm gonna go. Here you guys go. Ready? Here we go. Good night, Brandy. Hey, Brandy, I got some really good potential news for you, too. But I'll just tell you tomorrow. But it's really good, though, in relation to what we were talking about earlier. So
I hung up. What did you say?
Nothing. I'll see you later.